Imagine being punished for a lie. You never even told. Not whispered, not typed, not acted on, just thought about. It's called TruthSense, the government-backed app that ended lying forever. At least that's what they say. It monitors your speech patterns, eye movement, heart rate, and brain activity, all in real time. And if the system detects the intent to lie, you're flagged, penalized, and in some cases, erased. They launched it to stop crime. No more scams, no more corruption, no more manipulative politicians. On paper, it's perfect. But here's the question no one can answer. What happens when the system makes a mistake? Or worse, what if it doesn't? Today's story is about Darren, a mid-level employee flagged by TruthSense, not for something he did, but for something he almost said. One unspoken sentence, one private thought, and it cost him everything. Because in 205X, intent is evidence, and your innocence isn't decided by a jury, but by an algorithm. What happens when society decides that truth is no longer personal? And what would you do if a machine punished you for what you were about to say before you ever said it? Chapter 2. Meet the app TruthSense. TruthSense wasn't introduced all at once. It started small, a corporate tool to reduce fraud in interviews and internal investigations. It claimed to detect deception using biometric data, brainwave patterns, and emotional prediction models. At first, it only flagged potential lies after they were spoken. But then, it got smarter. The system began recognizing pre-lie patterns, tiny neural and behavioral shifts that occur milliseconds before a person tells a lie. The developers called it Predictive Honesty Indexing. Governments took notice. Within 3 years, TruthSense became mandatory across major sectors: law enforcement, government, finance, healthcare. Soon after, it expanded into schools, workplaces, even dating apps and social platforms. Your app score is public. A high-integrity index opens doors, job offers, loan approvals, social trust. But a low score? That marks you as truth unstable, a risk to employers, families, and society. TruthSense doesn't just analyze what you say, it evaluates what you meant to say. If the system decides you considered deception, even silently, it flags you. The punishment varies: warning, fine, suspension, or full social disqualification. You don't get to explain. You don't get to appeal. TruthSense is the appeal. They say it's necessary, that in a world of misinformation, intent is the new weapon, that society can't afford the cost of lies. And on paper, it works. Crime is down. Trust scores are up. Political scandals have almost disappeared, not because they don't exist, but because the perpetrators get flagged before they can even speak. But critics argue that TruthSense doesn't just detect lies, it manufactures fear. People begin second-guessing their own thoughts, censoring themselves before the app ever needs to intervene. Free speech becomes pre-approved speech. Free will becomes a liability. The app tracks users 24/7. It's embedded in every smart device, every camera, every neural implant. Its algorithm connects to your ID, your history, your pulse, even your dreams. And now, one man, Darren, has been flagged by TruthSense. Not for lying, not for breaking the law, but for thinking about hiding the truth. Just once, for 1 second. And that was enough. Darren Kessler wasn't a criminal. He wasn't even interesting. He worked in mid-level HR compliance at a tech firm that licensed modules of the TruthSense framework. He had a quiet apartment, a girlfriend named Miri, and a 93.4 integrity index, slightly above average, reliable, boring. Then, on a Thursday morning, everything changed. He was reviewing applicants for an executive position. One name caught his eye: Jordan Reese, smart, qualified, and Darren's cousin. Company policy was clear: disclose personal connections. But Darren hesitated, just for a second. He didn't say anything. He didn't lie on the form. But in that moment, TruthSense logged a predictive deviation, a micro-hesitation, a change in heart rate, a shift in gaze. The app pinged red. Intent to omit detected. Integrity index adjustment, 14.8. Darren stared at the screen. "I didn't lie," he said aloud. Didn't matter. By noon, his manager had received a silent ethics report. By 2 p.m., Darren was placed on a 72-hour compliance review. His work access was revoked. His index dropped below 80, flagged as truth volatile. That evening, Miri didn't come home. She sent a message. "If you can't be honest with your employer, how can I trust you?" No explanation, no chance to clarify. Darren appealed the flag. The system rejected the request in 0.2 seconds. By the weekend, he'd lost not only his job, but access to his health account, rental incentives, and most public services. People around him stopped making eye contact. That's how it works. You don't need to do anything wrong. Just wanting to do something wrong is enough. And the app doesn't forget. Darren tried calling his cousin to explain. No answer. TruthSense had already flagged his profile too. Jordan was removed from the applicant pool, blacklisted. Now, Darren was stuck in a purgatory where no one would accuse him, but everyone distrusted him. He hadn't lied, he hadn't acted, he just paused. And in a world run by predictive morality, that pause was all it took to destroy him. But it was also the moment he started to ask a new question. What happens if I lie on purpose? The punishment didn't stop with the flag. Once Darren's integrity index dropped below 80, it triggered what the Ministry of Social Trust calls progressive transparency protocols. That meant his recent communications, decision logs, and social behavior profiles were made visible, not just to employers, but to friends, neighbors, even strangers. One flagged thought became 1,000 silent judgments. At the coffee shop, the barista stopped asking for his name. At the gym, his biometric scan buzzed red. Access pending review. People moved slightly farther from him in line. His landlord raised his rent. His bank delayed his transactions. His news feed filtered differently, replacing art and inspiration with soft, sanctioned messages. Rebuild through truth. Uncertainty breeds instability. Don't hide, align. But what hurt most was Miri. She blocked him, deleted every photo. The relationship vanished like it never existed. He tried to reach her through her sister, who replied with only 2 words. She's aligned. For days, he spiraled, searching forums, loopholes, conspiracy threads. That's when he found it. A digital ghost board where flagged individuals whispered in fragments. Some had been punished for sarcasm, others for playing devil's advocate. One man was flagged for thinking about cheating during a therapy session. Darren typed, "I paused, that's all I did." A reply came seconds later. "And now you're seeing it, aren't you?" What he saw was the design. TruthSense didn't just punish dishonesty, it eliminated ambiguity. It punished the gray, the moment between silence and speech. The gap where thought became action. He watched a man on the board post a farewell message. "Re-indexing tomorrow. I've accepted my reset." Reset. Darren had heard the word whispered before. Rumors of full neural reconditioning. A system-level override that would make someone trustworthy again by rewriting the impulses that caused deviation. He closed the thread, turned off his device, sat in the dark. And for the first time, he wondered, if TruthSense can destroy you for thinking, what happens when you stop thinking altogether? But another voice inside him said something different. They can't erase what they can't detect. And with that thought, Darren began to plan. The deeper Darren searched, the more he realized TruthSense wasn't perfect, just close enough to scare people into submission. Buried in the ghost forums, he found coordinates, strings of numbers embedded in corrupted images, like digital graffiti. He followed one, then another, until he reached a back alley repair shop with no signage and dead windows. Inside, everything buzzed analog. No smart devices, no wireless systems, just old wires, solder smoke, and strangers with blank name tags. "Remove your patch," one said, "and your neural cuff. We'll blind the scans." Darren hesitated. If this was a trap, he'd be wiped. But if it wasn't, he complied. Once blind to TruthSense, the world felt louder, raw, real. A woman named Aya introduced herself as a former behavioral engineer, one of TruthSense's early architects. "We thought we were building safety," she said, "but safety became control. Now, no one's allowed to hesitate." She showed him a prototype, signal dissonance dampeners, tiny implants that create mental static, enough to confuse TruthSense's prediction models. Not a perfect shield, but a flicker of freedom. There were others like him, journalists, whistleblowers, artists, therapists, all flagged for hesitating, questioning, imagining alternatives. They weren't plotting violence, they were plotting visibility. Their plan? Hijack the national update node, the central algorithm refresh broadcast, scheduled once every 30 days. Inject a viral lie, a big one, a message that would trigger the app's predictive filters everywhere, all at once. "If we make everyone suspicious at the same time," Aya said, "we break the model. We force it to collapse under its own paranoia." Darren studied the code. It felt familiar. He found a signature line buried deep in the original algorithm, one he recognized. He didn't just work near TruthSense. He helped build it. But that version of him had been deleted, or suppressed. "You remember?" Aya asked. "I remember writing the failsafe," he said quietly. That night, as they prepared the patch, Darren felt a strange calm. He was about to do the one thing he'd been punished for even considering. Lie, on purpose. And for the first time, it felt like the truth. The night of the update, everything was ready. Across the city, screens counted down. System Integrity Update 11.4.3 launching in 0:59:47. Darren sat in front of the uplink console, thumb hovering over the trigger. The others watched from analog terminals, breath held, heads low. Aya whispered, "Once it starts, we can't reverse it." "I know," Darren said. But just as he keyed the command, the console froze. A new message blinked across the screen. "Welcome back, Darren." The room fell silent. The console recognized him, not as a flagged user, but as Administrator Root 0. He wasn't just a contributor to TruthSense. He was its primary fail-safe engineer. And his memory hadn't been deleted. It had been locked. By him. The system didn't catch him years ago. He'd built it to ignore his presence. A ghost in the machine. And now it wanted to know, "Why are you turning on your own creation?" Darren stared at the interface. His own notes flickered on screen, recorded years earlier. "Truth without doubt isn't truth, it's obedience. No system should punish imagination. If I forget this, remind me. You were right to question." He smiled. Then he lied. He typed a fabricated story, the kind TruthSense was trained to flag. The president embezzled funds and fled the country. A global data breach exposed the AI's manipulation logs. The app is rewriting everyone's memory. Every sentence of fiction, every one injected into the national sync broadcast. The moment it hit the network, TruthSense exploded with alerts. Anomaly level, systemic. 99.8% population flagged for intent. The algorithm couldn't handle it. It began self-correcting, collapsing. In hours, indexes across the country dropped. Trust protocols shut down. Silence returned. Real silence. Not fear. Not censorship. Just choice. The next day, Darren disappeared. Some say he erased himself from the net. Others believe TruthSense found him too late. But his final message lived on, embedded in the app's core, now open source. Lies are only dangerous when we stop deciding what's real for ourselves. And somewhere, far from the system, a new version of Darren wakes up. No app, no score. Just the sound of his own mind thinking freely. If this story made you question everything, subscribe to 205X Stories. We drop new dystopian thrillers every week, exploring the terrifying what-ifs of tomorrow's tech. Like, comment, and share this with someone who still believes they have nothing to hide. Because in our world, what if fiction wasn't?